This is the farmhouse from Pendean, built in the early 17th century. And what's fascinating about this house is that it seamlessly blends architectural styles from the medieval and early modern periods. This building was erected around 1609, its timbers felled that very year, and its lease taken by a local yeoman farmer named Richard Clare. Clare's farmhouse stood on a 40-acre holding, a small but self-sufficient piece of land in the Sussex countryside. The lease also granted him valuable common grazing rights, enough to keep around 100 sheep and 14 bullocks on nearby pastures. This tells us a lot about his world. He wasn't a poor peasant scraping by, nor a wealthy gentleman farmer. He was one of the growing class of yeomen, independent tenant farmers whose livelihoods reflected the slow rise of the rural middle class in early modern England. For men like Richard Clare, the early 17th century was a period of opportunity. After centuries of feudal structures, land was being leased and farmed more efficiently, and agriculture was becoming increasingly market-driven. A yeoman might sell wool, dairy and surplus grain at local markets, Midhurst and Petworth were not far away, and invest in improvements to his home and land. Architecturally, this building is a fascinating mix of medieval and early modern characteristics. One of the medieval characteristics are these unglazed windows. Glass was an expensive luxury in the early 1600s, reserved mostly for the gentry. So these open mullioned windows speak of both practicality and social position. Sturdy craftsmanship suited to a prosperous working farmer, not an aristocrat. Inside, the upper chambers remain open to the rafters, a lingering echo of the open hall tradition. These timbers, rough-hewn and axe-marked, are part of the house's character, tangible evidence of the medieval building techniques that were still alive and well in rural Sussex. The walls, too, preserve this connection to the past. They're partly filled with wattle and daub, a centuries-old method of weaving hazel or willow rods and coating them with a mixture of clay, straw, and animal dung. This simple ancient craft provided insulation, flexibility, and affordability. And this brick chimney illustrates a profound shift in room structure and design. Instead of the old open hall plan of the medieval household, this house adopts what we call a closed plan, a defining feature of early modern domestic architecture. In medieval homes, life revolved around a single smoky open hall. The hearth sat in the centre of the floor, with the smoke drifting upwards and escaping through louvres in the roof. Everyone, the family, servants, and sometimes even livestock, shared that same space. There were no ceilings to divide the heat or contain the smoke, and privacy was almost non-existent. The house stood about a mile south of Midhurst in West Sussex, in the manor of Woolivington, now West Lavington. Over time, the farmhouse was converted into 2 cottages in the late 18th or early 19th century. Then in the 20th century, it returned to use as a small-scale farm. In 1968, it was dismantled and by 1976 reconstructed at the Weald and Downland Living Museum in its original form. So when you look at Pendean Farmhouse, you are seeing a moment of transition in domestic architecture. The old medieval world meeting the early modern era. A timber-framed house built by a yeoman of rising means, which still carries echoes of older designs even as it embraces newer comforts. You can visit this house and experience this history for yourself at the Weald and Downland Living Museum. Be part of something historic.